Jason. How the hell are you?
Good. You didn't let me finish your introduction.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The big hopper. Hop along, Alan.
That's me.
Once he hops, he can't stop.
That sounds about right. Although I kind of need to because my ankles feel kind of weird. But you know, don't want to hop too much.
I was giving away what the topic was going to be a little bit.
We're talking about yeast.
Ah.
Oh no, no. All right.
Yes, and.
Yes, and.
And we're talking about IPAs today. We brewed a delicious IPA.
Cheers.
So cheers to that. You know, if you come to the store and there's a couple people in here, I think it's really nice to be able to have a beer and sort of just try, sample, see what we're doing. We're not selling any beer.
Can't. It's illegal.
Yeah. But we brew as a demonstration for people and in classes and stuff, and then we have the beer for samples, and it works out pretty nicely.
And the kits for sale as well.
Especially this one, which, you know, is so much even better now because when we first initially poured it, I think it was a little cold. Mm-hmm. I had a sip right after we poured it, but now all the flavors coming out.
Yeah.
Which is something to remember when you're serving your beers. Not too cold.
Temperature really does matter.
American beers, American lagers, you know, your Bud Lights, your Miller Lights, your Budweiser. Chi-Chi's wants to keep that as cold as possible.
Right, because you don't want to taste it, actually. I mean...
and there's a place for that. After you mowed your lawn, you know, it's nice cold beer. But this is delicious. What do we got going on with this one?
So this one is a sort of a West Coast IPA style with an East Coast IPA flavor, I'll call it. There's a lot of hops in there, a lot of late edition hops. So we drive the relative IBUs all the way up without getting a lot of bitterness. I tend to ascribe to the hoppy not bitter philosophy of IPAs.
Very smooth, and that's not a Citra Mosaic, but more Belma?
Citra Mosaic and Belma.
Okay.
Citra Mosaic we're using the boil, and then Belma is using the dry hop. So yeah, a lot of the aroma comes from Belma. A lot of the flavor will come from that Citra Mosaic duality, which so many people love so much. I mean, Mosaic's definitely one of the superstars of the hop world.
What's the? Let's talk for a second about the history of IPAs, because
what does that even mean, IPA?
It means, I mean, I didn't do any research, but just as from my sort of like random knowledge is, I know that England was a big ale producing country, and they wanted to get the ales to India, but by the time they arrived, going, you know, by ship, they were pretty flavorless.
Yeah, or bad.
Or bad.
Yeah.
So they had to fix them. It became the India Pale Ale.
Right, and the reason they did that, hops, in addition to having a flavor profile, also have preservative qualities in them.
Oh, okay.
They're essential oils and they're terpenes, basically. The pollens and the oils that are present in the hop flower themselves can act as a preservative. So they would stuff these ale barrels full of hop material and plants to sort of, you know, as a 1800s style preservative to actually get them there.
Yeah.
And like what they were doing before they had a term for it was a massive, massive dry hop. So they would get, since they were in there for so long, if you leave dry hops, you know, sitting in a barrel for however long it takes to go from Liverpool to India by boat, they'll start to make it pretty bitter. You won't just get that aroma. But it preserved it, and it sort of became a style. India Pale Ale was a term first used in 1835, according to Wikipedia. If I'm wrong, it's not my fault. And it sort of became a mainstay. The IPAs we know today are really the American style IPAs. And that sort of came about in like the early 90s. Harpoon was one of the first ones. Stone and Sierra Nevada, and of course Dogfish Head came out with their main IPAs, and that kind of has defined the style for the last 20 years. I think it is
really American style, in spite of the fact that it was sort of a British thing. But you might not know this about me, but I worked in a pub in England.
Really?
In London, yeah. And there was no IPAs. It was pale ale and bitters and stouts, and there were that sort of like old school pump, no carbonation. The thing would come up, and it would get well, relative to Bud Light.
Right.
But it was in a cold basement, like England's a cold country. But it would come up in, you know, through suction, you know, into the glass. And so the foam was just from air as turbulence as it went in.
Okay.
And but no IPAs. And so I think of it as a very American style. And I think that what Americans have done is take that basis of the idea of the IPA and just go sort of to the moon. And but it comes down to hops. So everybody's hops are sort of greening on the vine now. Did you harvest some of your hops already?
I haven't pulled any off yet. My flowers are starting to come in. The cicadas, I think, upset my hop plant a little bit. It was a big year, and a couple of my vines are dead. But I have here some hops from last year's harvest. These have been in my freezer for a while, and I don't know if we can see this too easily, but there's some like yellow powder in there. And that yellow powder are the alpha acids and the terpenes, or the essential oils. And that's where all the bittering comes from. That's where the preservative quality comes from. That's where the aromas come from. That's the kind of gold right there. And they're present in every hop. Oh yeah, sure.
It's so light, so this could be like an ounce or two of hops.
Yeah, that's probably what it would come out to. I got 1.5 pounds after I ran them through my dehydrator the last time I harvested, which, since those are nugget hops, they're pretty high in alpha acids. That gets me, 16, 20 batches out of that one harvest.
You didn't use these Nugget Nectar that you did?
I did, yeah.
That was a good beer.
It was a good beer.
That beer kicked ass. So we got, say this is an ounce, but I'm not sure it is, and you're doing a recipe from your garden, and you're going to use hops from your garden. Mm-hmm. It's like a 1-to-1. Like if the recipe says 1 ounce of pellet hops, is that equivalent to like 1 ounce of garden hops?
No, it's not. It depends on the hop. I haven't sent my hops to the lab, so I don't know what their actual alpha acid and terpene breakdown is, but it's more like 6-to-1. So if you're using whole leaf hops, you want to use a lot more than you would of the pellets, because what they do with a pelletizer is they sort of they grind them down, they make sure they get all the main amounts of terpenes and the alpha acids, and they get those into the pellets. So they're a lot more condensed than your typical whole leaf or flower hops.
Okay. So they're even kind of concentrated. They're not just the leaves sort of smashed down into a pellet.
Right. They're a bit more concentrated.
All right. Well, other things are happening in the garden.
There are.
Your cucumbers are getting ready to be pickled.
We've got our pickle bush. They're starting to. I'll go out one day and I'll find one the size of my arm that was the size of my pinky the day before. So you got to stay on them. But when you have a lot of cucumbers, best thing to do is throw them in a jar with some vinegar and some spices and make your pickles.
This is a fun way to get started in pickling, I think. I mean, all the stuff is available, but if you're like giving somebody a gift to get them started, a young person to get started in pickling stuff, something like this puts it all together and everything, and then they can sort of off to the races after that.
Yeah.
But we're looking forward to our tomatoes and our cheese making this year.
Oh yeah.
So we get really fresh caprese salad, which is one of my favorite salads.
Oh, it's great. I've got my sourdough starter ready to go, my cheese making kit, my pickle making kit. We're gonna do it.
Are you gonna use your hops that you grew in one of your next beers?
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see how this year's sort of harvest turns out. You can use them right off the vine.
Yeah.
You have to change your calculus a little bit because they're heavier because of water content. Okay. Or you can run them through a typical food dehydrator to get them dry, so you know a little bit more how much you're using.
Okay.
But fresh hopped beers taste different than dry hopped, or than if you hop with hops fresh off the vine, it has a totally different flavor profile than if you let them dry out first.
So if you bought those rhizomes at Cascades in the spring that we had, and you have these tall, vines going crazy.
Yeah.
Provided the cicadas didn't get them.
Right.
We're still looking at a couple weeks away. It seems like there's like nuggets on there. There's the buds, but they're pretty small.
Right. They'll look like little kind of hairy pine cones right now. You want to wait till they really take that hop shape and then start to turn a little bit yellow. If you squeeze them and they feel a little papery, they're about ready. But I recommend pulling them off, opening them, smelling them, eating them, just really familiarize yourself with that plant and what it does.
But don't let your dogs get next to
Do
them.
not let no, they are actually toxic to dogs.
So no dogs. But cool, man. Awesome. That was a good rock'em sock'em rundown on hops.
Yeah, absolutely.
And pickle. Now a little bit about pickling.
Hops and pickles. You could put hops in your pickling. It's the uses are endless.
We were at a class in Liquid Alchemy. They did hopped mead, and it was very nice.
Yeah, I've had hopped mead. It tastes great.
It's very good.
It kind of cuts that sickly sweetness that mead sometimes has, and makes it a whole new type of drink.
And last week in the store, we had two people back to back, didn't know each other, coming in for hops to make hop water.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
Yeah, I've tried that before as well. I actually did it as a joke, thinking people aren't going to drink hop water, but it came out really good. With that, it's just a matter of not letting it get bitter at all. You just extract all those fruity and aromatic terpenes.
How did you serve it? Like a beer?
We served it as sort of a refresher drink
like
at a spa. Yeah, so like a tea. I also added fruits into it to sort of mimic the flavor profile of the hop. So it was, I think papaya, guava, and mango were the main flavor notes.
Okay.
So I went out and got papaya, mango, and guava and put that in the water as well.
All right, cool.
I call it IPW, India Pale Water.
Something good, positive came out of British colonialism in India.
Something, yeah. One thing. This one beer.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right.
Take care.